Welcome again to our podcast on values-led leadership. During the last podcast, we talked about the need for leaders to locate their destiny or to try and understand their destiny and be clear around their own purpose. So today we pause and say, but how do we develop leaders? How do we nurture leaders in the current context, particularly where leaders have to lead in a complex world that has ambiguity, that has a lot of uncertainty, and yet we are, as leaders, required to hold the system together to be able to deal with the challenges of today, the legacies of the past, whilst looking forward to the future. So to position this conversation, we're going to ask Dumi just to again introduce the concept for us.
Thank you, Alex. It's such a powerful topic around the development of leaders. In a world that's changing very fast, technological changes in industry and business globally are demanding that we show up with incredible flexibility and agility for us to navigate it successfully, to remain successful, to be able to pivot quickly and see around corners that we don't even see coming at us. Very, very important for leaders to learn to trust the internal compass, for you to know as a leader that I have it within me to lead, to guide, to direct, for others to follow. And it means that I must learn to harness, not harvest, it's like you're taking from someone, to harness, mobilize the skills and talents of others around me for us together to be able to lead in that. Dr. Khoza is going to talk to us a little bit now around how to do that. So leadership development, and I'm going to hand over to you, Charlene, on this one. Leadership development requires that we tap into the genius in each person. With Ubuntu, we believe in that shared software of Ubuntu says to us, you have gifts and talents within you. Of the 8 billion people in the world, there's only one of you. There's a reason where you are here. In Africa, spirituality leadership, we understand that every human being has value. And we're talking about living values. So, Charlene, if you can speak to this a little bit around the development of leaders grounded in who we are.
Thank you for the great introduction, Dumisani. I really want to hear from Dr. Khoza on his views on the development of leaders. Because when I look out at the world at the moment, I see role models in many areas that one doesn't want to model. Or if people were to model them, we'd end up in a world where people consume one another, where selfish incentives are clearly bared openly on their arms. And we've all seen a lot of examples like that of recent days. I think we need to go back and think, how do we develop this wonderful value of Ubuntu in leaders across the world? And that's my question to you, Dr. Khoza. What advice would you give to people who want to develop leaders that live up to the values of Ubuntu?
No, thank you very much, Charlene. If the world needs anything at all, it is caring leaders, knowledgeable leaders, leaders who are coordinators, leaders who can align positive forces in pursuit of a common goal. So leadership training should start with inculcating a sound value system. Now that will come from a whole variety of streams. In a world that is becoming a little more self-centered, now if you look around, you'll see things like tribalism. tribal jingoism rearing its ugly head. You'll have national jingoism, particularly in the West, where such and such a country first. There is no such thing as being first without a variety of other firsts collaborating with you. In fact, if you get very, very narcissistic and self-centered, you cringe, you shrink in terms of leadership. So where we talk about leadership training and leadership development, first, the orientation has got to be sound, oriented towards what Martin Buber insisted should be an I-thou relationship. The candidates for leadership development must first be taught or be inculcated with a value system that says, I care about myself, but I'm just one player in a whole ecosystem that has got to function together in an interdependent manner. We cannot downplay the importance of development of technology lately, but it must be technology that is imbued with personhood. Now, personhood is different from personality. We all have our personalities. Now, personhood is that which you earn by dint of what you do with other people. Not to other people, but with other people. So once you have laid that foundation, then you can get the people who come and teach the various skills and imbue the candidates with things like technology. And technology is very, very important, but technology without humanity will destroy the world. And they've got to understand that. So my sense is that the kind of leadership development we should have should begin at home, and have the schools from primary to secondary to tertiary imbued with that, so that by the time they get to be entering the so-called world of work, they have the right kind of orientation. The problem with our education lately and our training lately is that we fail to begin with the end in mind. So you wind up with university students, and I confer so many degrees as chancellor, university students that are in fact behaving like they were commercial products, manufactured at the University of Zululand, branded, become, and you take it, it's done. That lays only the foundation. Learning, training, developing candidates for net contribution in the development of humanity is a lifelong thing. You can't behave like a branded product. The importance of leadership, or the importance of developing leaders, developing humans who are net contributors, is that in fact there is no such thing as standing still. We are always in the process of becoming. Either becoming anachronisms, irrelevant to the future, or harbingers of the world to come. So whatever we do by way of training and development, we've got to understand that we are a species in perpetual evolution.
I love that, and I couldn't agree more with the idea how short-term it is to put oneself first and think one will sustainably lead. And then the role of developing the value-based approach to training and development. There's also self-driven development. And I was thinking as you were talking how when I met you outside this room earlier today, you really connected and asked me about myself. And over time, when I've reflected on myself and I've walked into a local grocery store to buy stuff, I often realize how long it took me to connect with the person first before I connected with the task. What other advice would you give people that want to build more humanity into their just everyday engagement with other people as a self-driven or coached-based approach to learning?
I like the example that you used. One of the dictums for me as providing a bit of leadership that I do is seek first to understand before you insist on being understood.
Okay.
So real caring about other people means giving them scope to actually express themselves, to give them a shoulder, if you like, to lean on, figuratively speaking. And that way, you learn a lot more. My parentage, I said, included my own parents and my grandparentage. My father, where leadership is concerned, used to utter something that for me was too philosophical to be understood at the time. And it has to do with the principle of seeking to understand long before you insist on being understood. He mentioned something to the effect that as you grow up, son, and you find yourself in a leadership position, understand that you will need a measure of intelligent ignorance. Now, intelligent ignorance is almost like an oxymoron. Yeah. But in a sense, what it actually says is that in seeking, even to teach other people, like I teach at a number of universities, seek to understand what it is they need.
Yeah.
Before you cast pearls of wisdom that may actually be pearls of wisdom where you are concerned and might mean nothing to them.
Yeah.
So whatever you need, son, to be of relevance is intelligent ignorance. In other words, be in listening mode, but in an intelligent fashion. And learn as much as possible so that even as you begin to train, your offering of the training resonates with those that you purport to train.
Absolutely.
Whatever it is you provide as guidance is attuned to the aspirations of those that you believe you are in fact helping develop.
Lovely. If I may ask one final question, if you could say one thing, and it would be your final legacy to politicians around the world, given everything we've spoken about, as learning is continual and lifelong, what would be that one final message that you would leave?
I would say that in a world that is fast sophisticating, in order for them to avoid this complexity that they have to deal with, that is occasioned by globalization, amongst other things, by the world becoming a neighborhood, in order for them to relate well to that, they should actually seek to be knowledgeable. We are inundated with people who masquerade as leaders, but are actually empty-headed.
Yeah.
I don't want to use our own country as an example, but it's replete with people who have not taken trouble to actually read, to actually equip themselves with knowledge. So they wind up perplexed by this complexity that they have to deal with. And they run back to cocoons and do things that are untoward. They get selfish. And that from that selfishness, all manner of negative things actually begin to flow out, including corruption. All manner of things that actually encourage, if you like, mediocrity. Elevating mediocrity to the status of virtue with practices such as deployment. Now, deployment is rewarding those who sing praises to you with largesse instead of actually insisting on meritocracy, which actually says, who are the able amongst us and how might we actually employ them, not deploy. I've got huge difficulty with this concept of deployment because it actually destroys not only emerging economies such as ours, but even so-called advanced economies where people actually dispense largesse, rewarding mediocrity.
That reminds me of the saying, get knowledge, and when you get knowledge, get wisdom. Thank you very much. Alex?
What a spectacular way to end this amazing podcast with Dr. Reuel Khoza. Reflecting on these words, institutions, whether public or private, what I take out is when we look at leadership capabilities, you are saying it is important to have technical understanding. Because in technical understanding, there's depth, there's knowledge, or surround yourself with that. It's important to get business knowledge and understanding. But the other part that you said that's very significant for our conversation is that the conversation around behavioral competencies. And being able to develop people, the behaviors that we need. And one of those is, Dr. Khoza talked about passion and compassion. To be able to get leaders to have the ability to tap into the inner energy, but to have compassion enough to be able to be touched and affected by the needs and circumstances of others. And the other part that I take as a development area for leaders is that values-led leaders cultivate an ability to listen. You mentioned around being able to have the ability at times to be quiet, so that you can learn and that you have an informed response because you've taken the time to learn. But I also heard you putting out a challenge to those that shape leadership development. And I know GIBS has been at the forefront of this amazing work. Which is to spend time understanding the context and the needs of the market. And our conversation also says to take time understanding the needs of the future and develop programs, interventions, and experiences that enable our leaders to have passion and compassion driven by values. So thank you so much, Dr. Khoza, for that amazing interview. Thank you, Professor Charlene, Dr. Dumi, and Values 20 and GIBS really have really enjoyed this time with you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.